Welcome to the Middle East Peace Update Report. I am Bro Steph. Today is October 12th, 2015, and the title of today's report is the Ezekiel War really happening? And, I feel like it is. If you've been listening to me and my reports for any length of time, you know that I don't do sensationalism, and I don't like setting dates, and I don't like going out on the limb and saying things are when they're not. I'm going to say it this way, though. I am going to put in parentheses this caveat that things in the Middle East can appear one way, and then in a matter of days or weeks or months take an absolute turn on a dime and change and become something entirely different. So it is possible that the Lord could be alerting us that this is coming. And because he wants to see many people saved, and he wants to see more people come into the kingdom, the Lord could stall this thing out and put it on pause, because God does what God wants to do for his own reasons. Now, setting that aside for a minute, it looks like all of the elements are in place, that it does really look like the Ezekiel War of 38 could be taking place. The other thing I want to say, and a lot of people may or may not agree with me, I think that Ezekiel 38 and 39 are actually two separate campaigns of war. Two separate war campaigns. And here's what I mean. If you read Ezekiel 38, it reads as though it's the first of two campaigns. It's as though God draws in the enemies of Israel, deals with them. Then there's a cleanup period. And then if you take Ezekiel 39 and you lay over it Revelation chapter 19, they're like almost identical, with the birds of the air being gathered, Revelation 19, Ezekiel 39, and all of the 7-month cleanup, and Israel having enough fuel to last them, interesting number, for 7 years. I think that Ezekiel 38 happens before the beginning of Daniel's last week, the last 7 years of human history as we've known it. I think 38 happens prior, and then I believe that Ezekiel 39 is actually Revelation chapter 19. So with that being said, there's a few other things I want to draw your attention to as you read and focus on Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 8 through 12. That's your homework. I'd like you to read those Bible verses 8 through 12 of Ezekiel 38. You're going to see a word used repeatedly. It's the word safety. You're also going to see unwalled villages and bars at gates. I want to draw these to your attention. These are not properly translated out of the Hebrew. The word safety should properly be translated secure. And when you add the right word, secure, into the Ezekiel 38 war, it sets Israel up in a whole different light. You see, you have this argument. I don't want to call it an argument. I'll just call it a view today, a discussion, a debate, that Ezekiel 38 can't happen until the tribulation starts, because of the word safety. Everyone argues, well, Israel's not dwelling in their land safely. Well, when you throw in the right translated word, secure, we can now agree that Israel is in the land. They securely control it. They are secure in their taking care or being caretakers of the land. They are secure and have a level of trust that this word in Hebrew, the connotation is that they're secure in the land, they trust their dwelling in the land, and all of them are living there in such a way that the land's growing, the land's fertile, and the land's producing, securely in control of their own land. No one can argue that Israel is securely in the land of Israel, that God has drawn from the four corners of the earth the Jews back into their own land. See, Ezekiel never says and never leaves us with the impression that Israel is going to be living in existence of total peace and harmony, and they're never going to be attacked, and there's never going to be problems. That's not what Ezekiel is teaching or trying to paint a picture. The picture Ezekiel's painting is that Israel possesses the land, and that's a fact. Okay, so with that in mind, as Israel possesses the land, and it's bringing forth fruit, and it's blossoming like a land of milk and honey, like the scriptures have said. Now we can see that Ezekiel 38 can happen right now. We don't have to wait for the tribulation hour for Ezekiel 38 to take place. So the bottom line is that Israel's fulfilling all the requirements for the Ezekiel war to happen. And so it wouldn't surprise me, with all the news headlines we're reading, Russia is now had a meeting with the Israeli Air Force, their generals, to discuss ways to make sure that the two countries don't accidentally fire on one another and end up getting into dogfights in the air and that kind of thing. Because it's a small land space that this war is going on in, and it's very easy for people, jet pilots, to get confused, not get the right radar signals or GPS coordinates, and end up knocking down other countries' pilots. And then a bigger problem can ensue. But as you read Ezekiel 38, notice that God says that toward the end of the chapter there, that the people turn on one another. The enemies of God and of the Jews, they turn on each other and begin killing one another. So there's going to be a state as the Lord moves in and starts to come after those that are on the hills of Israel. And that's where God defeats them, on the mountains of Israel. As the Lord starts to come after them, there seems to be a spirit of confusion or something that takes over, and the forces get confused and start shooting at one another. So that's going to be interesting to watch, to see if the war zone starts to have a lot of confusion where friendly fire is killing one another, and where basically the Lord's doing the work for Israel. But the Lord does fight this battle. So the answer to the question, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that Ezekiel 38 is beginning to happen now. And so it's a time for us to be in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. The final peace that will reign over the world and over Israel will not come until the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, until he comes back at his second return. So I'd like to end this report with this. This is a time for you to be looking up and to be living out your faith and sharing the gospel with as many people as you can. And if you don't know Jesus Christ, now is a time to surrender your life to him. Read Romans 10 and ask Christ into your life. God bless you, and I'll talk to you again soon.